was going to wear something similar. I was like, but no, I'm going to wear my Yoda shirt instead.
Oh, yeah, I kind of like your Yoda shirt better. I'm not gonna lie. So how's your day going?
Dude, it's good, man.
Good?
It's good to be back in the whole business vibe. Plus, I got a long week coming up next week, so I'm trying to relax now.
What are you doing?
We're going out to Michigan for a mortgage seminar, and then we're going to Montana the end of next week for more skiing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I always ask everyone the same question, just starting off, like, why did you get in real estate?
Funny, dude. So we'll go back to me in college. I had a baseball scholarship at Norfolk State to where then they were going to redshirt me. So then I went to TCC that next semester. Then I transferred to JMU that next semester where I was serving tables, hated my life. Girlfriend was at home, family at home. So I decided to go home. Thought I was going to take over my dad's painting business. And I don't know if you've ever painted a house before. Absolute nightmare. So 6 months in, I hated my life. I was like, this sucks. Me and my girlfriend love watching HGTV. Oh, everyone else does. And I was like, man, it'd be so dope to flip houses. And she was like, well, why don't you become a realtor first, learn, and then do it? And I was like, all right, cool. I'll sign up right now. So I signed up, and, dude, it changed my life. Yeah, and I'm good with people. I'm good with strangers. Mm-hmm. I've always been that way. I've always been the one to throw the parties and host the parties. But I was always, like, the person that was actually, like, responsible. Yeah. So when I got into real estate, I mean, dude, that first year I joined the team, learned a lot, and I made six figures first year. And I was like 21 years old making six figures. This was wild.
What team did you join?
I was under Nikki Reed at the time. Yeah, she was doing like 14, 15 million a year. So she knew what she was doing. Yeah. She was doing online leads, taught me how to work them, taught me how to actually do the contracts. And then we separated after a couple of deals. But after that, I learned everything I needed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, let me ask you. So, you originally got in for HGTV, probably Chip and Joanna games. Just like
dude, Tarek and Christina, Flip or Flop. That was our show. Yeah.
My wife loves Chip and Joanna games. That's kind of like
love them too, though. Yeah, they're great.
Our stories are kind of similar, just because of the fact that both our significant others were big into HDTV. Mm-hmm. Mine, I had no choice. It was either that or I was going to be miserable. My wife forcing me to renovate our house. I was like, I might as well turn a business into.
Yeah. There you go. Smart.
So let's say so you just became a realtor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you start flipping straight after that, or have you ever flipped?
No.
Just like that was your initial.
That was the initial in. I knew I wanted to flip, but I didn't know how. So I thought just selling houses in the meantime would get me there. And once I saw how much money actually came from selling houses, my whole focus was on that. Mm-hmm. Now, I have flipped, I think, 3 or 4 properties ever since. Yeah. But it was only deals that came to me. I never looked for them. Just because I made so much money from the actual sales side, that was my primary focus after that.
So, say you just got into real estate. Did you have really have a vision going forward? Or you just like,
no, dude, zero at all, zero vision. I didn't know where it was going to take me. I mean, I wasn't even expecting to make that much money. And then, I mean, literally, like my goal, I had almost like a vision board where it was a whiteboard, and I wrote 100K on it. I want to make 100K, and then I would subtract every single time I had a closing. It was like 87, 42 left. Yeah. And then once I hit it, I was like, wow, I could do more. Mm-hmm. And then that next year was 150. That next year was 200. That next year was 250. And it was wild, dude. Like, it's crazy how fast everything happened. Mm-hmm. And me, I'm not someone to sit back and relax either. So then I saw all these realtors doing these amazing things. Like, I would see people like Susan Pender selling $30 million a year. Yeah. Like, what are they doing? So I would ask all these realtors what they did, and rather than reinventing the wheel, just kind of took and grabbed what I liked. And from there, that's where the money came from. Mm-hmm. So me, I like working smarter, not harder.
Yeah. So I know, like, being a real estate agent, at least the last couple of years, like, everyone wants to do it. Mm-hmm. So what really did you have to learn? Honestly, just to get leads, because it's like everyone's brother is.
Yeah, that was the hard part, especially being 20 when I started. The people that knew me saw me as a little kid still. Yeah. So they didn't want to buy a house from me. And then all my friends were still in college. Like, so my sphere was non-existent. So Nikki showed me online leads and how that worked. And then once we separated, I got online leads from Boomtown from my brokers at Coastal Realty, where they were handing me these leads through Boomtown, but then I had to convert them myself. So what I did was I learned how Mike Ferry actually converted leads online, memorized his scripts, turned them into my own, and then I was like, all right, I'm just going to call these people nonstop, and I'll get someone out of it. So it started out with me just on my phone, just hand dialing leads from Boomtown and just like this. And then like the blood started cutting off circulation because I was calling so long. So then I went to a seminar and learned about Bluetooth and Mojo. So then I implemented Mojo, which is a dialer, into Boomtown. So where I was calling 40 leads a day, now I was calling 100 to 200 leads a day.
Yeah.
And for me, since I understood the game and like what my numbers were, because it's all about figuring out, well, how many people does it take for me to call to actually get one person? Mm-hmm. Roughly, it was about 100 people. I get one person. So I was like, if I call 200 people a day, I'll get 2 people. 300 people a day, 3 people. Yeah. To the point where I was getting after at Coastal, and I was like, hey guys, I don't need your leads anymore. I'll buy my own. At that point, then I was at one given point in time, I was getting 300 leads a month. To where I was calling 300 people every single day. So a lot of these people don't want to make the phone calls, but for me, I was like, if I don't call, I'm not going to make any money. Yeah. If I don't make any money, then I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do in life.
Mm-hmm. So I've never bought leads before.
It's not fun, dude.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
So it's in Boomtown?
Boomtown was the CRM, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And that's where the leads would come from. Essentially, it was like they did PPC, Google Ads, and Facebook, and they kind of funneled them all.
Okay, so it's just like an app. Like, and how much do you have to pay for that?
The brokerage had it, which was really nice at that time. But once I left at Coastal and got my own, it was about $2,000 a month for just the CRM, and that didn't even include paying for the leads.
Oh, okay, so you just for the system $2,000, and then how much was it like per lead?
At that time, I think it was $11 per lead.
$11 per lead.
Yeah, and then I was doing like 300 leads a month. So, dude, I was spending probably $5,000 to $6,000 a month between this stuff.
Yeah.
But at any given point, I had 10 to 15 buyers or sellers. So, like, for me, I was always busy. And then once it got to a certain point of too much, then at that point, that's when I implemented team members.
Yeah. So, so I always feel like the hardest thing is, like, from one agent to, like, scaling up. So you got all these leads and you had, let's say, you couldn't call and go show a house and all
Correct.
that stuff.
Yeah.
So how did you take that first step to, like, kind of work on your business rather in your business?
Yeah. So then at that point, I implemented a showing agent. So then I would pay agents to show houses for me. So when I was out showing houses, they were also showing houses for me. Yeah. And then at some point, I implemented team members to where then I was handing them leads, teaching them my processes to try and get them into it.
Yeah. And
what I found is it didn't work out too well doing that way because everyone has different work ethics. Mine is obviously way up here. Some people's aren't. So I found it wasn't too much of a great thing because then I was more training them rather than working on the business. Yeah. And then it took away from that. So then one of those years I did way less because now I'm training someone else to do what I was doing. But then it wouldn't work out. Then I trained someone else and then it wouldn't work out. And it just was a never ending battle that I found.
So did you read a book or how did you just trial by error?
Yeah, really trial by error, dude. I read like a lot of self-help books. So like Grant Cardone, Robert Kiyosaki, like those type of people. But when it came to the real estate side, it was all just trial by error, man. And like I would see some that worked, some that didn't. And then I would ask other big realtors what they did. So there was one conference I went to in Boomtown, and it was like a small conference. More of a group setting where I learned from these giant big dogs. Yeah. Like Brandon Brittingham, he's a huge guy at Boomtown. He does a ton. He just bought like a $10 million apartment complex too. Like this guy does big things. So I learned from the stuff he was saying. And once I learned from these guys, then I implemented on my side. But once I found the team thing was pretty difficult, that's when I was like, all right, I've got my broker's license for Virginia and North Carolina. Now's the time to open up my own spot and not just make money off the team people, make money off the independent side as well.
Yeah. So, okay, let's say you just developed your team. What's the time span in that?
Well, by year 3, I had my broker's license for Virginia and North Carolina, and it was right before that to where I started the team. So it was about year 2.5 to where the team was started.
Okay.
But that's because I scaled so fast, so quickly. My first year, I did 6 million in volume, and then after that, I'm not one to like talk about it. I'm one to do it and put it in action. So I mean, it was probably within year 2 where I was calling the 300 people.
Yeah.
And then it was just too much where I had to get other people.
So I realized in real estate, and you probably have realized too, like you live and die by your team. So how do you go about finding the right team members that had the same vision as you?
Oh, it's difficult, man. That's one of the hard things, honestly, because the hard thing is you got to be able to provide them value.
Yeah.
Usually that value is leads, but it's also got to be a hard give and take because some people want leads that are ready to go now.
Yeah.
Some people are willing to take a lead and then work it themselves. But what I found is almost everyone wants to take a lead and work it now, not try and just work on the lead. So everyone wants a lead ready to go right now.
Yeah.
That's so hard to come by. And then like even when that does come by, you almost want to keep it for yourself because like
you just did all the work for it.
Correct. So it was difficult, man. It honestly, the team thing never worked out for me because once I trained people and some of them that eventually did get it, then they're like, I can do this on my own.
Yeah, pretty much just
and then at that point, then they're gone doing their own thing, which is awesome for them. But then I'm kind of screwed on my side where it's like now I've got to find either another team member or figuring out something else. So the team model works for a lot of people, but what I found is it didn't work for me.
Yeah, I got you. So you got away from team model. When did you open Austin James Realty?
Yeah, yep. In 2018, me and this guy, we bought Blue Sky Realty, and we started out with 5 agents. 2 of them were my team members, and then we inherited 3 others. And it was okay.
Why did you buy it? Why didn't you start from scratch?
Yeah,
I've always heard that it's always better to buy than.
So he came to me on the opportunity to purchase it, and for me, I liked the location. 2, the price that we were getting it made sense because the company already had 3 rain shares, and we essentially bought the company for $15,000. Well, the rain shares were worth more than $15,000. So I was like, this makes sense. Like we're buying.
For
a
anyone
company.
who doesn't know what that is, can you explain what that is?
A rain share? Yeah. So we're part of the MLS in Rain, and in Rain, by joining as a company, you can purchase 1 rain share, which is somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000.
Yeah.
But nowadays, you can only buy 1 rain share, and you can't buy any more. Back in the day, you used to buy a ton, and so the company that we bought had 3 of them. So I was like, it makes more sense to buy this company, rebrand it, and then redo all the documents. Like we started out with like a little shell where it's like, all right, there's the policy manual, there's the compliance manual, and all that. And I was like, okay, I wouldn't know where to find this stuff, so let me take it and then kind of just adjust everything. Yeah. So it made it a little easier to buy it and then just rebrand it.
Because they had all the systems in place, you just kind of had to find.
Correct. And then what I found out later, I ended up redoing everything. Redid everything. I literally threw everything out of the office, rechanged the whole process, kept some of the stuff. It gave me a good basis to really bounce off of and more direction rather than just not knowing. But now looking back, it was a great starting point when someone who had no experience owning a brokerage, now I knew where to go, how to go about it.
Yeah.
This is what I need to edit. This is how I want to implement things. So that's why we bought it. But little did I find out the partnership thing doesn't really work out either, at least for me. So that we actually separated last year to where we had about 30 agents. We did our separation, and as of today, a year later, we have 49 realtors, which is pretty cool.
So yeah, I've heard about our partners also. It's like, so what have you learned in the process of partnership? And nothing against the other person, but it's like, how do you find like someone who's kind of like your opposite?
Dude, it's hard, man, because we were such opposites. In the beginning, we were friends, and that's how we came about it.
Yeah.
But then once we went through business, we found that we both had different leadership styles. We just had different styles altogether. And so we were constantly butting heads to where it's like at some point the progress stopped.
Yeah.
And so to find that right person is hard. I think more of the communication up front is like what makes it key, saying, hey, these are our roles, these are your roles, and we're going to move forward that way. In the beginning for us, it was kind of all over the place. And later we tried to define where we were. But then I found out, like, again, my work ethic is up here. His wasn't. So then he would be absent a lot. And then I would just want to just go.
Yeah.
So it just didn't work out for us. But individually it works out. So we found out later it works out better. We're just by ourselves. And it was a great learning lesson along the way.
Yeah. So I've actually read the book Traction twice because I knew real estate really well, but I didn't know business that well. And that's what business, like it talks about. It says like you need a visionary and an integrator. And if they're both a visionary, you're both integrators, it doesn't really work. So it's
Correct.
Like, how do you find, and then pre-establish roles.
Yep.
So you built the real estate company. Is it just, why not start a mortgage company?
Yeah, funny on the mortgage side, man. So when me and him first went into partnership, I found out then his mom owned a mortgage company.
Yeah.
And so she kind of brought me under her wing to learn the mortgage side. And my role was more of business development, to where I was going to just establish relationships between the real estate and mortgage side. Because I'm good with people. So branching that real estate to mortgage was fairly easy. Got quite a few people over.
Yeah.
And the 3 years that I was with them, I learned a lot on the mortgage side. Well, when he said he wanted to separate, that's when she said she wanted to separate as well. And I was like, okay, no problem. Like,
getting broken up which way?
This definitely sucks. But, you know, all of it was a great learning lesson. And I think every failure is just an opportunity to learn and grow more.
Yeah.
And so without all of that and all that pain that caused from it last year, I mean, dude, where I am now, it taught me to just how to become independent, that I can do it by myself.
Yeah.
I learned what I needed to, and then I was able to implement the stuff that I wanted to implement that I couldn't over there. So now we have 11 loan officers. We're in 6 states on the mortgage side. Like, it's wild how much growth can happen when you are just passionate about, like, I'm going to do this. No one's going to stop me. No one can tell me no. And then just skyrocket from there. So that's why the mortgage thing came out of it. I saw how much money was behind it, and I saw how much more money came out of it than actual real estate.
Yeah.
So that's why I switched the focus of, I'm going to open up this mortgage company too, and then have the real estate, and then have the real estate feed into the mortgage.
I got you. So on the service side, are y'all, like, I know you said you saw the more opportunity on the mortgage side. Do you still see that even with the
big time
mortgage?
Big time. Dude,
taking a massive hit?
Like, it is taking a massive hit for a lot of people that didn't have the right business models. Like, a lot of people, what they did, like mega corporations, there was a giant refi boom a couple of years ago. Yeah. And they hired a bunch of people on the back end to handle that, process it, do all that stuff. Well, when the interest rates went up, the refis went away. Now they had to do all these massive layoffs because they didn't need these people.
Yeah.
I saw this from the beginning, and the one thing that the mortgage company I was at did well was they knew how to stay lean. So I just took that, and with us staying lean, we can really expand and use the system on our side to make more money. So it sounds weird, but like, we don't have much overhead. The overhead that we do have, it's like you have to have.
Yeah.
But for instance, on the mortgage side, we closed 3 deals maybe 2 weeks ago or so, and we closed 3 deals as well on the real estate side. On the real estate side, the brokerage made $900. On the mortgage side, it made $10,000. So I was like, this is insane how much money can come from the mortgage side compared to the real estate.
Yeah.
So that's why it's like, it's worth focusing on the mortgage.
So do y'all take into account even, I guess, this year, because let's say like everyone gets these mortgages and then like 2 or 3 months, interest rates drop and they refinance, because doesn't the mortgage company have to pay back everything?
If it's within 6 months,
within
yeah.
6 months, yeah.
Yeah. Most people won't do within the 6-month time period. But if they do, then yeah, you do have to pay it back. But what's great about right now, the market that we're in, are refis still happen because people get divorced, to where someone wants to keep the house, they refi the other person out.
Yeah.
But anyone who's buying a house now, you know, every realtor is saying right now, buy buy the house, but don't marry the rate. So marry the house, not the rate.
Yeah.
And what's great is anyone who purchases now, you make money off of that. But then in 23, 24, when rates are going to be, or 24 now, later 23, when rates are down, that's when everyone's going to refi again. And then you make just as much money on the refi as you do on the purchase. So it's like everyone's going to be customers twice coming up soon.
So how do the mortgage industry make money? Because y'all are more or less like wholesalers. You find the price for that this right here.
Yeah, we broker
and
the
you
deals.
broker the deals. Just more or less the same thing with real estate, except for it's all paper.
Yeah, and imagine you're a lender and we're a broker. So you're the one really financing the deal. The way it works is we've got 10 of you guys, and when we've got a buyer, we're looking at all 10 and pricing it out, saying, okay, you're the best. We're going to choose you to be with them.
Yeah.
At the very end of the deal, we're the one processing everything. We hand it to your underwriter. They approve it. Once the deal goes through, you fund it, and then on the CD, you actually pay us directly our commission. So it's not coming from the buyer. You're just paying us as a third party to us.
So all those like loan fees and stuff like that all gets paid to the back end.
Correct.
And you get like the servicing.
No, we don't even service it. You service it. And then in most cases, what you guys do, the lender, is they sell it to the secondary market to where they make additional money from there.
So you are just more or less playing the spread between what you can get it for and what you sell it for.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's really just kind of like insurance brokers will do this too. It's like we're just choosing the best lender out there, and then you pay us for giving you the business.
Gotcha.
That's how it breaks down.
Gotcha. So, I guess you mentioned a little bit. Do you still think it's a good time to buy? I know
it always is, man. All housing is always going to go up. Housing and land, it's a scarce thing to where no matter what, if you look in a span of 30, 40 years, even the stock market, when things go down, they always go back up. So if you look at a graph of where we were in 2000 to where we are now, even though we had a massive dip in like between 2008 and 2010, it's still up. And so even where we have a little dip now, it's a very minor dip. It's just going to keep going up. So it's always good to buy now because that appreciation over time, 10, 15 years from now, you're going to make money on it. It's even the people in '08 that got screwed by buying at top dollar. If they held on and sold now, they're going to be making a lot more money.
Yeah, I agree. So my thing is so everyone always asks me if it's a good time to buy. I actually say it's depending on your circumstance. Like if you're planning.
Well, that too, yeah.
So
if they plan on moving in like 2 years, it's not going to be.
Yeah, if they're hard on there. Oh man, I made so much money by buying this house. Buy right now and just sell it for a lot more later. Yeah, you can get burned. But like, what's your motives? If your goal is to like hold it for 5-something years, like you're not going to lose money. Or like for me,
no,
like,
not at all.
I will never sell.
I will never sell either.
My kids may sell eventually, but I will never sell.
I say the same thing. I'm never going to sell a house. I'm going to keep every single one because 30 years from now, when all of the mortgages are paid off, and I have this insane equity, let's just say I bought a house at $200,000 here. 30 years from now, it's worth $500,000. Mm-hmm. That's $500,000 cash that you can just cash out right then and there.
Yeah.
Like, in what world can I just like have a renter in there? They pay my mortgage for me. I get to sit back, relax, and 20 years from now, collect that $400,000.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's mind blowing. That's why I'll never sell a house.
Yeah, it's definitely for me. So I know real estate, and I believe you should invest in what you know. So that's why, like, obviously for me, that's what I'm going to invest in. But even for like for other people, I mean, what other like most assets do you know that you can get cash flow from day one? You get tax advantages, and I don't know about you, but I think they're just going to keep spending money.
Same here, man. They don't understand.
To spend money, so because I know the real estate's going to go up. The more they spend money, it's going to go up. And so the Fed wants 2% every year for inflation, and even by the rule of like 72 in 24 years, my real estate would double at the very minimum of 2% inflation.
Real estate's always going to go up. It will always go up no matter what.
Yeah.
So I plan on holding forever. Like you said, my kids will probably end up selling, but I'm not.
Yeah.
So that's why I got into the short-term rental game as well, because I found a way of making quick cash flow now, but at the same time having that long-term appreciation, the long-term equity that someone is going to pay my mortgage for me. And then 20, 30 years, if I want to use it as a retirement gift for myself, here's 500-600 grand where I can cash out.
So we talked about your backstory with the real estate company and the mortgage company, but I know you're also an investor. What do you invest in?
So early on, I was looking for flips, and in the beginning, it was impossible to find flips because everyone wants to look for a flip. The ones that we've done, on average, we took home 70, 80 grand each flip. So it was great. It was awesome, but they're so difficult to find. So then I didn't plan on getting into the short-term rental game, really because I'm in real estate, understand how property management works. I saw long-term rentals and how they worked, and I was like, I see a lot of nightmares with that. I see a lot of my clients where they're selling because tenants destroyed their houses, or they're only making $300 a month off of them, and I was like, it's not enough money. Well, once me and some friends, we went to Snowshoe about 4 years ago now, and that weekend was just a perfect storm, and literally perfect storm because there was 17 inches of snow that weekend. It was awesome. So like first time snowboarding out there, it was an incredible experience. But what's crazy is we stayed at this condo that was built in the 80s, purely from the 80s, like not updated anything, like purely from the 80s. And we paid $1,500 for the weekend to stay there. And I was scratching my head. I was like, dude, I love snowboarding. I love this place, but no way do I want to pay $1,500 every time I come out here.
Yeah.
No way, especially for a place like this.
Yeah.
So I went to my girlfriend. I was like, maybe we should just buy a house up here. Like maybe if we let them rent it out, because I don't know anything about short-term rentals, we'll have a place to go to. So I asked a local realtor up there, and I was like, hey, if I want to buy a house here in this condo complex because I like this area, what does it look like? And he was like, well, you can buy it here for this much, and if we manage it, you'll lose $1,500 a year. And he literally said $1,500 a year. And I was like, okay, well, I could own a home, pay the same amount every year that I just paid for this, except I have a place to go to all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about renting it out because someone else is going to do it for me. And so after doing that, though, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And we went under contract. I was like, well, why would I lose money on this? Like, there's got to be a way to make money. So I looked up a bunch of different things, and I ended up finding this site called IGMS. And IGMS is like a CRM to where I was looking for something like Boomtown. Because in Boomtown, it sends out auto texts, auto emails. It's creating a system where the system works for you on working on the leads. And I was like, there has to be something that exists in the short-term rental world. And within IGMS, I found that it does the auto messages. It does the booking calendars. It notifies your cleaners. So then that way, I found that I didn't actually have to work so hard, and I don't have to pay a management fee either. And so by doing that, I was like, I can make money from this. And the very first one that I got, I implemented the system that I have now. First one I bought for $125, which you can't buy that now because everything went up.
Yeah.
But I profited $35,000 from it, like after the winter season. And and that was out of 125, and I was like, oh my God.
So are you using their management company?
No. I managed it myself. And so that's what I was saying. Like, so it's on Airbnb, VRBO, and Booking.com, and it's all synced together on IGMS.
Okay.
And IGMS is purely the saving grace because I was so afraid to like hop out on the limb and do it because I didn't know anything about short-term rentals. And just like everything, the unknown is scary.
Yeah.
But like once you just take the risk and jump in, then it's not as scary because now you know. Mm-hmm. But the hard part for everyone is like, because I don't know I'm not going to do it. Yeah. For me, I'm like, screw it. I'm young. If I make a mistake, I'll recover later. But I was like, worst case scenario, I'll lose $1,500 a year. I get the appreciation and equity. That's all I care about. But I was like, there's got to be way to make money.
$1,500. Were they just saying like, hey, we'll keep up the property? We're not renting it out or anything?
No, they would be renting it out. So with all the rent outs and their expenses, I would lose ultimately $1,500 a year. That's what they were saying. Yeah, right. And I was like, that sucks, but there's got to be a way to actually make money on this. And so after the first one where I made $35,000, I was like, that really wasn't that hard. Like I've got a nice system down. So then I use
How much did you buy the first one for?
$125.
Yeah. So you bought it 125. Was it?
Uh, well, it rented out a bunch, but after everything, like my take home was 35 grand.
Good night.
And I was like, this is insane.
Yeah.
I was like, because this is so easy now. It's not scary. Let me get another one. And so instead of being dumb and like spending the 35 grand, like for me, I've always reinvested into my business. And that's what helped me scale is like, I don't buy fancy stuff, fancy cars, anything. I've actually never bought a car before, which is even funnier. Took that 35 grand and bought the second one, like the full 35, bought the second one. And then crazy enough, me just being crazy, I saw a third one and I was like, I need to buy this. So I bought the third one as well at the same time the second one. And then it made, gosh, I want to say like 110 grand last year.
What?
It was dumb between the three, like 110 grand. And then this year, what I did was I cashed out, refied the first one that I bought for 125 because it had so much equity, and I used all that money to buy my fourth one. And the fourth one is now my most top producing one, to where this year alone I made 166 grand off of the 4 rentals.
So you still finding them like for like so 125 for the first one? How much?
The second one was 175.
Okay.
Third one was 350, and the fourth one was 490.
Was it like you just getting higher? Like
it wasn't.
Or is it like the same?
It wasn't intention to like keep upping it up. The first 3 were actually all 3-bed, 2-bath.
Yeah.
2 out of those 3 were updated. The second one that I talked about, I actually had to do 40 grand worth of renovations to. What I don't recommend is doing a renovation for it because, especially in a remote town like Snowshoe, there's no contractors out there. So it was a 7th-month process, paying contractors nonstop. Me having to go over
you can really tell your girl, it's like, hey, this is HGTV.
Yeah,
you wanted this.
Real life, dude. And it was more of a headache than I thought it would be. And then on the fourth one, we did a bunch of stuff too, but it wasn't like actual work. It was more of just throwing out all the furniture, putting in new ones. But with the fourth one added this year, it brought in 166,000, and that was midway through the year on the fourth one. So I'm projected to bring in about 200K next year between all 4.
So you still finding deals? Maybe not after this, but before?
Yeah. There's deals up there, and honestly, if you just run it properly, you'll make money off of it. And so I got my girlfriend into it. Last year, she bought one for 110, profited 32,000 off of it.
So between you, your girl, and Eric, is there any rentals?
Yeah, we got quite a few people to buy up there, which is funny. But my girlfriend and like I created this system to where it's gold now. Like it's you do this, and this, you'll make money off of it. And my girlfriend has a 55K salary job. Does very well. She's a dental hygienist, had this safe, secure job. Well, I was like, babe, take this money, use this to buy the first one. She bought it for 110 because I was in the price range. And then she made the money. I was like, this is incredible. She got the second one this year, made the money, and now her salary equals how much she made from these 2 properties.
Jeez.
And I'm like, this is incredible. We found the cheat code to life.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like if I could just keep focusing on these properties, I'll be happy with my life, honestly.
Yeah. So is it, well, obviously it's Snowshoe, it's a resort, so it's pretty much all seasonal in the wintertime. So
they also have mountain biking in the summer. But I believe this system I created can work anywhere, honestly.
I gotcha. So what was because you just created that, you found a realtor, what was your process like to building a team? Because you can't get contractors, so if something goes wrong, how do you handle that?
Yeah, I just asked around on the mountain, get into Facebook pages. That way I found my cleaners. That way I found my handyman. Because there aren't many contractors out there, you got to know the right people who are reliable. So then I found the right contractor, the right handyman, and then I pay them well, pay them on time, tip them too. And when you do that, then they will run to your property the second you need something. And so that has saved my butt more times than most people know.
I think I was talking to a short-term rental investor, and I was like, so, like, how do you know you get a good cleaner? He said, you'll know if you don't get a good cleaner because all the guests will let you know. Trust me.
For sure, dude. For sure. The guests will let you know on the smallest things, man. So it's funny, like some guests are complete psychos.
Oh, yeah.
And then some guests are awesome. Like one time one of my washers wasn't working correctly and the renter told me, hey, I fixed it for you. I was like, dude, no way. You're awesome. But then I've had people as well where they're like, hey, we saw dust in your cabinets and we took everything out, rearranged it for you and cleaned it. I was like, you took out everything out of my cabinets and rearranged it. Like, dude, you're on vacation. Why would you do this? So it's
wife was driving her crazy.
Yo, literally. And like the husband texted me and was like, hey, I'm just so sorry that she did this. And I'm like, dude, it's all right. She cleaned it. But like, people are characters, man. And it's fun.
So I just talked to recently the guy who owns Outer Blanks Blue. He owns manages 400 rentals out there. He said the people that complain isn't usually the person that puts it in. It's usually like if you have a large party, it's like the Karen of the group who's like the sister-in-law or mother-in-law, just grilling you out of random. Has nothing to do with it. But
yeah, my most recent one, the fourth one, I spent $40,000 on new furniture throughout the house. So we balled out on this place. This one tenant, she was like the third person to stay, had like a list of 7 items that told me what was wrong with it. And I'm like, are you serious? Yeah. Like, you are, like, what I learned is you can't please everyone.
Oh, yeah, obviously. But let's talk about, like, issues. What is the biggest issues that you've had up there?
With Snowshoe?
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough that I'm 6 hours away. So if there is something wrong, I've really got to rely on other people to be my eyes and ears, which is good sometimes. Like they are reliable, but there's been times where the handyman's not responsive and I'm like, oh my gosh, please get out there. I'll give you an extra $50 to just drive there, please. So there's been times like that. There's been times within IGMS to where the calendars kind of messed up and there would be a double booking. Double bookings are never fun. So then I called up Eric, Eli, and Julian. And I was like, guys, anyone have an open spot? I need to place this one person over there. Luckily, Eli and Julian did. So there definitely can be problems. And then there's some guests that are just really mean. There were guests one time that refused to leave. And then my cleaner was like, guys, you got to leave. Like, there's people checking in today. And then they tried fighting my cleaners. And then my cleaners called me like, yo, we're leaving right now. They're trying to fight us. I was like, oh, all right, great. So then I had to call my emergency cleaners, which then charged me an extra $100 just to go out there right then and there. And then the people finally left. So these problems do happen. Things break all the time. Like this summer, I had 5 dishwashers really bust, which is wild. I was like, what happened to dishwashers this summer? So I learned a lot about dishwashers. Random things just happen, man. And I mean, it's not like when something's going to break, or it's not if something's going to break, it's when it's going to break. Because something always breaks. So just having reliable people up there is probably the most saving grace I've ever had.
So I've heard at Snowshoe, like, there's not really much food up there. Like, if you go up on top of the mountain, or I think it was Eric that was telling me, he said he went up there to visit one time, and there was like no food or anything like that. And
if you go in the off season, there's no food. In the off season, every restaurant's closed. So you got to prep to bring your own food. Really about 2.5, 3 months of the year, the mountain is closed. So there's no shops, no restaurants. So if you bring your own food, it's actually super peaceful, dude, because no one's on the mountain. You're in the mountains. You get to enjoy the beauty. It's very quiet. You don't make as much money in those months, but it's still super cool. But in the summer or in the main season, the restaurants are open, but there's so many people there. It's a 2-hour wait.
Here, hold on.
Yeah, so it's there's a lot of give and take for any place you go to. Snowshoe definitely has its perks and it has its downfalls. But every place is like that. Like, for instance, people that own in Sandbridge or in the Outer Banks, they have killer summers and then very slow winters. So for me, since I destroy it in the winters now, I want to get a summer or a spring property. So then that way,
evens it out.
Exactly. So then it's a constant high all year.
I got you.
Because right now it's like, okay, mediocre in the summer, spring, fall. And then winters are insane.
Yeah.
I mean, insane.
Jeez. So brokerage, mortgage company, investing. So what is your vision for, I guess, for yourself and your company? Like, where do you see yourself going? Like, what's your plan? What's your, like, we always talk about traction, like your 3-year goal. What's your 3-year goal?
3-year goal? So I really have a 5-year goal, but within 3 years, the plan would be somewhere around 60 loan officers. I would love to have 100 realtors. I've created these companies in place to where it's systems that run it. And so once I put these people in the right spots, I have these people running the systems for me, and then I'm kind of just managing the systems and the people. Getting to that point, it's a little bit more difficult. We're almost there already, which is really nice. Like, I've got a great COO on the mortgage side. I've got a great office manager on the real estate side. So those two kind of oversee stuff. And then I've got an awesome assistant that oversees both of them and kind of everything that I do. So now having these people in place to where it's like, we've got my COO running the mortgage. We've got my office manager running real estate. We've got my assistant overseeing both of them and helping both at the same time. If I can get to 100 realtors, then we can use those people to where they get a great experience. They save money. They make money. At the same time, they use the other stuff that I've got when it comes to mortgage, insurance, and title. They use those, and that's where the real money is made.
Yeah.
And then for me, what I want to keep doing is taking this profit and not spending it crazy, like not buying a mansion or anything, but taking it to buy more short-term rentals, because that's the end game is like, hey, if I have 20 short-term rentals, it brings in $1 million a year. Well, if I wanted to literally just focus on that while I had these girls running this, then I get to chill. And then 30 years from now, when all 20 of those are paid off, now I've got $6 million portfolio. It's where if I want to retire on that, sell it, pass it down to my kids, gives lots of options.
So how do you go about hiring that COO? Because they've always said, like, no one works harder on your business than you do. So how do you find that person? Because you even said that, like, find the right partners is hard.
Trial and error, man.
Trial and error.
Trial and error.
So what core values do you have core values for your company that you try to hit? Like, what do you?
I do. So one, they have to like people. Have to like people. Everything we do is sales. So they have to love people. People that are introverts, they're great, but they're not so great in these higher up roles because you have to oversee a bunch of people. So you almost need an extrovert for that role. And then it's, I don't care what you look like, what you sound like, what you wear. Like, none of that matters to me. Are you good with people? Do you like people? And are you going to be loyal and then just treat people right? So, and then you also have to work hard. So if you don't really work well with people and you don't work hard, it's not going to work out, at least for me with them. But what I've found is when I'm doing these interview questions, one of my main things is I ask, where do they see themselves in 5 years? And if they say anything else but outside, like within my company, it's an instant no for me. And these people told me, they were like, hey, I want to be a part of this company and I want to grow with this company. So I went through a couple office managers, found one that's awesome. She works very hard. And then my COO, she wasn't even the first person I thought of. I thought of a couple other people. And after working with them a little bit and going a little bit into it, found that they weren't the right fit. So when I finally came across my current COO, I was like, this is the perfect fit. Like, I've got the perfect person. He's very knowledgeable, very good with people, works very hard. It's very difficult to find people with the same work ethic. But once you find it, you know it. Like, you just know like-minded people. So, again, it's a lot of trial and error and going through it, finding the right person. It's not simple.
So how do you entice them to want to grow it? Do you just have, like, a structure like, hey, you get salary, but, like, hey, you get a profit share at the end of the year?
Exactly. Profit share for me is huge. Because even though the salary is nice, profit share entices people to work harder. It makes them buy in because the better you do, the better they're going to do as well.
Because they're along the journey with you.
Correct.
Exactly. Same thing with, like, the mortgage aspect.
Same thing on the mortgage side.
Do you have a bunch of mortgage brokers? Do you have, like, a CEO that runs that runs the mortgage brokerage?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was talking about on the mortgage side. The real estate side, we don't have a COO right now. We have the office manager.
Yeah.
But she acts kind of as a COO, which is
gotcha.
very nice. So yeah, same thing on the mortgage side. She does all of it. And then what I even do a step further is to help grow the companies even more. I offer a profit share to the realtors and to the mortgage people if they recruit for me. So
gotcha.
if they recruit others, like another realtor or another loan officer to the company and help us grow that way, I offer a profit share that way for helping us grow internally as well.
I gotcha.
Yep. So it's like I want to entice everyone, not just the top people. And then that's been a way of how we've been able to grow is like I'm not going to be greedy and take all the money. If I share the money and have them buy into the company, then they're going to want to spread that wealth with everyone else. And then when they sell and crush it, then they bring on other people as well. So it kind of just keeps going from there.
Yeah.
So that's how like we've gone from 5 to 49 realtors or 1 to 11 LOs pretty quickly.
And it forces you to continue to grow because you don't want your employees to outgrow you. You need to continue to grow,
Definitely.
for them.
Definitely. You got to be able to keep them busy.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is working on the internal systems because once the internal systems are set, then if the process rolls correctly, everyone's lives should be fairly easy. And then once you grow another stage, like another level, then you have to revisit those systems and see, okay, this is working, this is not working, this is what we need to change. So we're always adaptable as well. You always have to be. I don't know how many times I've changed my life, but it's crazy. But you always have to be open to it.
So how do you get like so even going back to just starting, how do you create like everything to like how like Traction talks about like getting everything to multiply pretty quickly? How do you go back if you can give your piece of advice for your younger self? Well, younger self was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
What would be the best piece that kind of like help you not make some of the mistakes that you made? What would you done differently?
That's tough, man. That's a tough question because a lot of the stuff that I did wrong, I consider it as a great learning lesson.
Yeah.
So it kind of prepped me of what not to do for the future. And even though I've had some bad relationships and could have maybe avoided them, I still learned a lot during that stuff, which then prepped me to be where I am today. So it's like I kind of would just relive all of that. For like someone else, though, I could probably just say, hey, do it on your own, put the right people in place or try and find them better. Yeah. But honestly, like all of these failures and like struggles I had in the beginning where I could have done it differently, I don't think I wanted to because it really brought me to who I am today. It makes me humble for what I've got. It makes me excited for the future of where we can go. It makes me excited for the people that we have now because it makes me appreciate them more. It's almost like they say, hey, you can't really be happy without experiencing sadness. So it's kind of that way, that weird mentality where it's like, yo, these failures led me to where I am today, led me to be a bigger, stronger person. So I don't think I would change anything.
So, like, let's say, because a lot of people are scared to fall. Your advice would be like, screw it. Just
It's terrifying.
Fall as many as you can.
Yeah.
Just learn from it.
It's terrifying, dude. And a lot of people don't want to take that leap of faith, but you almost have to. Because the way I look at it is like, we literally live one life. Yeah. And like, this is the only life we get. Me, I'm like, why not just take the most out of it and do everything I want to? Like, what's going to hold me back and me be 60 years old and regret that I didn't do that stuff? And it's like, I'm young enough now to where if I fail, it's going to be okay. Like, if I failed when bankrupt today,
be a good story.
It'd be a great story. But like, it's going to be okay. Like, there's always ways to make money. And for me, it's like, okay, let me take these failures and learning lessons to then become a better person in the future. So it's tough, dude. A lot of people that, if they don't have a nice savings bank, because a lot of this stuff does take money, and they've got a family, they've got kids, and it's like you've got these people that are dependent upon you, that risk is going to be a little bit harder. So for me, that's why it's like I'm not married yet. I don't have kids yet. This is the time to take this risk because it's only going to get harder in the future. So someone who may be 45 that has a kid, have a family and all that, it may be way more difficult to actually just start a mortgage company or start a real estate company, because if you don't have the capital or like you use all the capital that you've got and then it fails, now you're going to be really screwed. And for me, I can tell you, I've lost a bunch of money before by things not working out, or I tried something and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
But, I didn't have much expenses. I didn't have kids that are over here that I got to make sure they feed. Like right now, my biggest thing is like making sure my employees eat. I want to make sure they can always eat. It's like I told them, guys, I'll eat ramen before you're going to be eating ramen. Yeah. Like I want to make sure you guys are going to eat. So the risk gets harder as you get older. So it's like anyone younger. Like I try to encourage high schoolers to start the entrepreneur path because if you start now, go through all these hard learning lessons in your early 20s, 30s and 40s, 50s, 60s, it should all be easier later. But people who start later, I would only say if you've got a nice nest egg of money, then sure, it's definitely well worth the risk to start and try. Because again, if you don't try and then you're 60 or 70 and you're looking back and reflecting on your life, you're like, wow, this kind of sucks. Why didn't I try this? Yeah. For me, I'm trying to set up a legacy, trying to set up like, hey, my kids are going to have something to go upon. I want my kids' kids to have something to go upon. So I'm thinking of like 20, 30, 40 years down the road rather than today. Yeah. So everything I do is for the future.
So that is your why, is to be like create a legacy for your kids and all that stuff.
I want to make sure everyone is financially free. And like you say, the financial freedom is a real thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, for me, time is the most valuable thing on this planet. And if I could find a way, and I'm not going to say money is the most important thing in this world, but everything that is important revolves around money.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I can figure this out to where money equals free time, that's what I need to focus on. So then I could focus on the real things like friends, my family, being with my dogs, doing the things I want to do rather than being a slave to time and a slave to trying to make money rather than having money work for me.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think money has caused a lot of issues, definitely in families. Like I think it's maybe the second leading cause of divorce. So what would be your advice for them? Like, I mean, so you have a real estate company, mortgage company, all investing. How do you track all your expenses? So that's what I've realized for maybe just talking to a bunch of people. A lot of people have issues like tracking their expenses, figuring out exactly what goes in and goes out. So you have a lot going in and a lot going out. Yep. So how do you track everything on like a scale that you do?
Yeah, QuickBooks has been great. Honestly, It's a very simple tool. It's where you connect your bank accounts. But for me, I treat everything individually. So like the mortgage is by itself, real estate's by itself, title's by itself, insurance is by itself. And when you treat it that way, it makes it way easier rather than saying, okay, what was this expense for? Like when all the expenses are here, then you can go through your QuickBooks and you're like, all right, this was for that, this was for that.
Yeah.
The assets coming in for this, so it's easier to make a P&L sheet for that particular company. And you do it over here for the real estate, do it again over here for the title. And then you get an overall picture of how everything went. So it gets a little confusing. So I created these spreadsheets as well to where now.
My wife loves spreadsheets.
Dude, I do too. And I'm just a big visual person.
Yeah.
So when I can see the overall big picture and see, okay, this is how this did, this is how this did, this is how this did, it gives me a vision of I need to put a little bit more focus here or a little bit more focus here. All right, these expenses are crazy. What can we cut down here?
Yeah.
So when it's all like, this is its own separate thing, makes the picture more clear. And then when you've got all the final numbers together, now you see the big picture, like, okay, I need to do this.
Yeah.
So that's where it makes it a little easier.
So actually, that's very important you said that, because a lot of people think like, oh, this is not that big of a deal. Like, I don't own a business. Like, why do I need to listen to this? I feel like everyone should run their personal life, their business, personal expenses, just like you would a business.
I have one.
And track it exactly.
I have my own personal net sheet. I have my own personal spreadsheet. I've got all of it. So I track all my utilities. I do the same thing to where it's like, if I can see and for me, I'm kind of looking for patterns. If I can see the pattern here and I can see what I need to focus on or not focus on, it really, like, when I can really bring my attention to focus on something, it only gets better from there. And without having all this stuff organized, I would never be able to know what needs to be worked on. So organization is huge for me. I use all the QuickBooks. I use Dropbox. I use Google Sheets. And really, I have my whole team on everything too. So then everyone could track everything. And for me, I'm not someone that's going to hide something. Everyone knows everything. Like, I'm super transparent.
Yeah.
because when others know where I want to go, they can help me get there. They know, like, I don't have to deal with all these problems by myself. So, like, my assistant will catch something that I didn't see here, or, like, my office manager will catch something here. So it's great having these people oversee the whole thing as well.
Yeah, because your family is a business, and let's say you keep money in the savings account, you're growing, you're investing, that gets bigger and bigger. You grow that just like a business. I feel like that is so important that a lot of people don't know, and like especially myself. So my wife was very big into budgeting. Before we got together, I didn't really budget at all. I was a hoarder. I just hoard cash and not spend anything. Like you talk about not buying cars. I didn't buy my own clothes. I got clothes for birthday and Christmas.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything. But I guess when I got with my wife, she was all big budget and everything, and you can really see like where your money goes. Like it's crazy. Like you can see like, oh my gosh, I spent that much on alcohol or something. Like how much it tracks everything.
I did that too. At the end of the year, on my credit card spreadsheet of like my food expenses. And I saw like $5,000 at the end of the year for eating out, and I was like, dang, dude, I need to change that. I need to eat more at home, do that stuff. So it really helps being able to do that. Because then what I also did was I figured out my net sheet, how much I was bringing home from each company. I saw my personal expenses, and I saw kind of the wiggle room of money that I had. So then I was like, all right, I'm going to get a whole life insurance policy. I'm going to get a very good health insurance. So it really helped me see, hey, I can implement these things to my personal life. To where it's like, if I die today, you know, my whole life insurance policy's got every house covered, got my whole family covered. If I get hurt, my health insurance is covered. And then not even just that, I saw I had extra money. So then I'd put a monthly reoccurring thing for retirement fund. I put a monthly reoccurring thing for a future child fund. So I'm probably like one of the few 28-year-olds that doesn't have kids that I have a child investment account, which is wild. I put $300 a month towards it because I'd see the extra money. I have extra money to where I put towards my own home mortgage. So I put like an extra $400 a month towards there. I have solar panels. I have a few extra bucks where I put the extra money towards those solar panels to pay those off faster.
Personally, I hate the solar panels.
Oh, really?
Not a fan.
Dude, best thing I've ever done, man. Like, I have zero electric bill. If I was only paying the loan, it'd be like $220 a month, which is like the average for the year of the electric I would pay. But I pay $500 a month. So instead of a 20-year loan, it's actually going to be covered in 6.5 years. After that, I'll have zero electric bill.
I have a question for you. So when your solar panels, when you sell that house, isn't that solar panels like loan not transferable?
Some companies can do it transferable.
Okay.
Some can. Okay. Or what you could do is try and increase the purchase price, and then you pay it off from the equity. But I don't plan on selling the house.
So it's a long-term plan.
Yeah, it's a long-term thing. So. But what I love about solar panels, too, is you can treat it just like a house. To where if you don't have solar panels and you're paying from Dominion, electric is like you're renting electric. Like, you never get to see that money again. And, you know, you're always going to pay it. They can raise rent or the electric at any time. But when you own it, like solar, it's a fixed rate.
Does it cover your entire?
Covers my whole thing. I haven't paid an electric bill ever since. So it's a fixed rate. It's never going to go up. And once I'm done with the loan, then I never have to pay it again. So it's incredible to where it's like you treat it like a rental house compared to a purchase of a house. At some point, you'll be done paying off the house. You're paying equity into it. On a rental, you know, this is what I hate about rentals is that money that you have that you put into it every month literally disappears. Like you're paying someone else's equity. So that money's gone forever. And then after your term, like after just say your 1-year contract for a rental, they can raise rent by 10%, 15%. My lease for my office is set to increase like 1 to 2% every year built in the contract. And what sucks about that is I can't do anything about it because I'm renting. Over the 5-year term of my lease at the office, I'm going to pay $250,000. I'll never see that money again.
So why haven't you looked into buying your?
Oh, I'm going to. That's the 5-year plan.
Because I've heard actually interest rates are actually pretty good when you.
By year 5, I'm going to own a corporate building for sure. Yep.
Okay.
So by year 5, that's when my lease is up. I really want to get that process started by year 4. So then by when year 5 is up and the lease is up, you just all transition right into there. So for me, I'm long-term. People see rent as great, like, hey, we're adaptable, we can move, but it's like, dude, we're just wasting money. So that's why I love solar. It's like, I'm not wasting money. Like, my equity is going into the solar. My rates can't go up just randomly. So that's why I love that too.
So what would be for your best piece of advice for a young investor, even like a family, like what would be your best piece of financial advice that you would give them to
financial advice
as a non-financial advisor?
Financial advice is hard because it depends on everyone's situation. But for me, it's living below your means. Because when you live below your means, now you can have this extra saved money. But what you do with that extra saved money is going to be key. For me, it's like, hey, if you want to keep your salary job, get a Roth IRA, max it out every year. Because if you do that, that long-term growth is insane with the compound interest. If you have extra funds, then I would say buy an investment property because, again, in the long term, the appreciation over time, someone else is paying your mortgage, that equity you're going to get between someone just living there. So if you can save up enough money to buy another house, get it rented out, maybe short-term rental, that's key. But if you don't ever have that, maxing out like your Roth IRAs or your company's retirement funds where they match it, it's literally free money. So it's like, hey, use all of that because 50 years from now when you retire, it's going to be a giant nest egg. So that's what I fully believe in. But it's like just really living below your means is going to be key. And then for me, it's like failure is inevitable. So it's going to happen no matter what. Yeah. But quitting is optional. So it's like if I quit, everything's done. Like it's done. I lose all of it. But if I don't quit and treat it as a learning lesson, at that point, then you move forward. So it's like if I get those two,
learning lesson.
Correct. But that's why I say failure is inevitable. Like it's going to happen, but quitting is optional. So it's like if you decide to quit because it was too hard, well, that sucks, you know. But if you push through it, no matter what, you're going to be successful. It's the persistence that makes people successful, and it's really only the 1% that continue moving forward.
That's good advice. So I know a lot of people are probably thinking after hearing your success at Snowshoe, you want to get into it. How do you go about calculating the short-term rental income for those properties? Because that's kind of like it's a gray line.
It is. It's very hard. Essentially, you've got to run comps like you do in the real estate world.
I've done it. It's like shooting in the dark.
Yeah. I mean, look at it this way. It's like, all right, you know how to sell houses. You know how to run comps to sell a house, right? You take all the nearby homes and figure out what those sold for and compare it to what yours could sell for. I do the same thing on the rental side where you go on Airbnb or VRBO and you basically pull a radius and then you pull comps. The thing is you have to go through every single day of what those rent out for.
Jeez.
Yeah. It takes a while because you can only do like 2 to 3 days at a time. And then you got to do the whole year. And then you take a percentage of that and say, okay, this was my rented percentage. This is how much we're actually going to get out of the year. And then you got to project the expenses as well. Once you can put those two together, then you'll know if it's a good deal or not. I'm actually working on an online short-term rental course to where I teach people step by step. This is what you do. This is how you do it. This is what you look for. This is what the spreadsheet's going to look like. And then at the very end of it, once you put in the numbers, then it'll basically spit out saying, yes, it's a good deal or not.
Oh, cool. So for like, let's say a 3 bedrooms, 2 bath Snowshoe, what would be a gross rent look like for that?
Like how much it's going to, dude, it's all different.
Yeah, it's all different. And do you go straight in the condos in the location or you jump like right outside? There's a lot of like.
All of mine are in Snowshoe, but like from the actual slope, some of them are a couple minutes away. Some of them are right on it. Yeah. But honestly, it's going to be different for everyone. Like I've seen people where they buy these properties and they don't do anything to it and try to rent it out, but it doesn't do as well. Like it'll gross $40,000 or so. And then mine to where I redid all the decor. I did the right advertising, the right marketing.
Because they don't run it like a business.
Mine grossed $80,000. Yeah. And then they look at me like, what did you do? And I'm like, dude, look at yours, look at mine, That's all we have to see. If they see our two side by side, they're going to book mine every time over yours.
Yeah.
And because of that, then I have these insane reviews. I've got these awesome guests where they want to keep coming back. Now I can keep raising the rent. And now I'm making more year over year compared to you still barely making 40,000 plus your expenses when I'm making 80, 90,000 now plus my expenses. So it's wild where people look at me and they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, look, I'm just treating it like a real estate listing.
Yeah.
You know, you do all the same stuff, professional photos, get staging and virtual tour, have it look good online. And at that point, it'll sell every time. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm trying to sell it, but they want to rent it. That's how I'm trying to sell it.
Gotcha. So obviously you're your own mortgage company. What kind of financing do you go to get something like that?
Funny enough, I didn't use my own mortgage company. Yeah. There's a local company in West Virginia where I went to where they actually have really good deals.
Oh, because you're not in West Virginia, are you?
We're not in West Virginia, no.
Oh, okay.
But even then, I still wouldn't do it myself because in some places like Town Bank, for instance, someone local here, in special cases, these mortgage companies that are local can do what's called shelf loans. And with these shelf loans, they can offer better interest rates. They're not selling it to the secondary market. They're going to keep it in-house.
Yeah, I like that.
And so that's what I did over there is I found a local mortgage company. They're actually on the mountain all the time, and they gave me good rates. Instead of putting 25, 30% down, they let me put down 20%. So it's much better to go with someone local in that
Is it
case.
like a 30-year or is it like commercial? Like
They're 20-year, 5-year arms.
5-year arms, okay.
With a 1% cap. So it's like I got them at 3.25% and 4.25%. And, you know, 5 years from now, if rates are at 7%, it'll only go up to that 4.25%.
Yeah. So when you say that, a lot of people like arms. Like, oh, no. So I actually have one, so I can't.
I think arms are great, honestly,
Yeah.
especially in high rate times like now.
So what is your when someone says like no to something like that? What would you say to that?
It's hard, man. Like, one, we can't ever predict the real estate market. We never know what it's going to do. I never thought I would see a 7 or 8% interest rate, because I came in with the 2s and 3s.
Yeah.
So I never thought I would see it. But for now, again, it's like if the investment is there and the money makes sense, even with this interest rate, I say full on send.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go get it because you can always refi later.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, I bought that first one at a good interest rate, and I cashed out refied last year in the middle of the high interest rates. But I did it because I had so much equity to where I could take all that money and buy the fourth one. So I don't care about the interest rates as much because in the end, if my numbers look right, that's all I care about. And for someone like now with interest rates, if they don't want to buy a house because of that, yes, but like if this is your perfect house, buy it because you can just refi later.
Yeah.
And what I love about ARMs is most of the times they're 5 years. A lot can happen in 5 years. If rates change by year 3 or 4, then do a refi, switch to whatever it is, like a 30-year conventional, and then you're set. But you have the house of your dreams. So that's what I look at is like I'm long-term game. I never look short-term. And when people look short-term, that's where they have these issues.
So that 5-year arm, let's say like in that 5 years, just like a mortgage, you're probably paying a lot, mainly interest.
Mm-hmm.
So after that 5 years and the next 5 years, does your payment stay the same or do they do that? Oh, it's technically a 5-year arm based on the 15
Depends on the interest rate. And usually,
say your interest rate stayed the complete same.
So if it stays the complete same and you
technically now it's
refi,
amortized over 15 years now.
Yeah. I mean, it all depends on if you're restarting the loan at the 30-year, 15-year. Like if you do the 15-year, then you're probably going to pay a little bit more per month, but now it's going to be paid off faster.
Yeah. But if you started out as the original 20 years, 5 years, boom.
And then switch to a 15.
Well, you're just staying but technically there's still 15 more years after that.
And anytime you refi, the monthly payment's going to change.
Well, if you don't refi, you're just letting them do their term after
then
5 years.
the interest rate after year 5 will change to whatever the current market rate is.
Okay.
So
but still amortized over 20 years. Still
correct.
Gotcha.
So then now we're on year 15. I still only have 15 years left. However, if the market's better, interest rates are down. Now it goes to that new interest rate, and now I actually pay less per month. But if the market is worse, like if it was right now, the rate would go up by 1% cap. So it can't ever go past the 1% up or down. So that's why, to me, it doesn't even matter that much, because that 1% doesn't really mean too much.
So do you know about that much about like banks and like Camel scores and stuff like that? Because can a bank, if the value of your property drops significantly, can't they call a loan?
It depends. I think every bank almost has that opportunity to call loans, and I've seen people go bankrupt over that. So for me, it's like, hey, if I could try and pay these off faster,
Is
that's
that
the
just
goal.
on the 30 years or just for the?
I think every scenario is different, honestly. For me, when it comes to that stuff, I don't really know too much. I just hope it never happens to me. And I think a lot, like, if a company is going to go bankrupt or something and then they call all this stuff, yeah, that's where someone's going to get screwed. But then at most likely, you could probably refi with another bank and get that fixed from there.
Because I know that because I looked at Grant Cardone, because Grant Cardone in 08, he had all those big commercial loans, and they actually the bank foreclosed and
Correct.
and they tried to call the loan,
Right.
and he never missed anything.
Right.
So I was curious. I always I'm a worst case scenario kind of person.
Yeah, that's why, like, there's big companies around here where every 5 years they refi their properties to take money out to buy more. And it's like, if that scenario ever happened, they are completely screwed, because now they have no leverage, they have no equity, they have spread themselves out so thin, they're just going to be screwed. So for me, it's like, hey, if I'm making good money on this, try and pay it off as soon as possible, almost like the Dave Ramsey model. So, like, I love Grant Cardone and Robert Kiyosaki. They're huge on leveraging debt. But for me, on the safer side, the Dave Ramsey model makes you feel a little bit more at peace with what you have.
Yeah. I personally love debt, but I want to plan to, like, if I'm passing to my kids, to pay them all off
For sure.
for them.
Have it
They
paid
don't
off.
need to do like the whole
Have it paid
playing
off.
the game like I am.
Not at all, man. Have it paid off.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like, if I die today as well, I've got a whole life policy where it's like all the properties are taken care of. All the properties can be paid off. So that's what I wanted to make sure. I didn't want to leave like my children or like my heirs with this debt. Like, that is probably one of the worst things you can leave any family member.
That or not a will or a trust.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. Yeah, so after my mom died, I actually got a will after that to, like, make sure, hey, since my life is so complicated, everything knows where it's going to go.
I got you. So I know I've taken up a lot of your time. Where can people find more about you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I put a lot more stuff on Instagram than anything. I'm on Twitter, YouTube. A lot of YouTube stuff is more of like training videos for real estate. So Instagram is definitely going to be the best source, because I post daily stories, videos. I have a lot of fun with that stuff. I'll message people back and forth if they ever have questions. And then I'm creating this online course as well, where all of that will kind of be funneled through my Instagram.
Yeah.
So Instagram is going to be my main hub until something is better. So it's just at Austin Frangoules. And yeah, Frangoules is tough to spell, but as soon as you start spelling it out, it gets my face will just pop up.
Yeah, I had to look it up to make sure I got it right.
Yeah, no one knows how to say it either, so it's just Austin. But
I guess one thing I forgot to ask that I really want to ask is, your companies are very big with, like, I guess, marketing. Get that all these agents need to do their personal brand. So where do you see, like, the importance of personal brand marketing? Like, how do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, I tell all my people to where they should brand themselves, because I don't believe any company will actually sell a person.
Yeah,
I think people sell themselves.
Yeah.
And I learned that early on when I was at bigger companies thinking that. So I tell them all to brand themselves. They all do it differently. I tell everyone to find their niche. And then at that point, they focus on that, brand themselves with that, and then they're going to explode in business. A lot of the stuff I do, I use Canva to just do the marketing.
Yeah.
Super easy. You pay once a year for it. And that's where, honestly, a lot of even my mortgage stuff comes from.
It's Canva.
Yeah, Canva is an amazing tool. So I use it all the time. But there are marketing companies out there who will do stuff. But for me, it's like, hey, I want to save money. I can do Canva. You can outsource people doing it as well. But if you can really focus on your niche and brand yourself that way, that's where all your business will come from.
Yeah, definitely with, like, media and everything, it's kind of difficult because there's, like, it's always moving, and people's attention is getting smaller and smaller.
It is, but I think if you focus on that small community that you thrive on, then I think no matter what, even how things change, you're so embedded in this community now to where you get all your business that way. And it's usually plenty of business for someone. Like for me, it's hilarious. Like I joined a softball team because I used to play baseball, and I've sold multiple properties from that. Sold $1 million house off of it. I'm like, dude, this is from softball. Like let me just hit that and then really just advertise myself. And then when people like you, that's almost like you're marketing right then and there.
So let me ask a question. When you just started out as a real estate agent, did you have an issue like trying to your friends using you or anything else like that? Was it like that?
I did in the very beginning because everyone was still in college.
Yeah, okay.
But once everyone was outside of college, then everyone used me because I was already in the game for 3 to 4 years. And they saw my experience, and I posted on Facebook and Instagram all the time showing, hey, I closed this house, I did this property, I sold this much. At some point, I embedded in their brains that I am the person for real estate to go to. Yeah. And just like now, I have a bunch of friends who are mine from high school to where they work at my company now because, again, they were in college, saw what I was doing and said, hey, I want to join you because I see what you're doing. So the social media piece I love because it's free. Canva you can implement with it. But once you embed in everyone's brain that you're that expert to go to, it's fairly easy from there. But it takes a while to get there. So it takes 2 to 3 years. So that's why I focused on leads and strangers, which is not the best way of life. It's not fun. But it gives you a good mentality. It builds your mental toughness. So even though it wasn't fun, it was a key part of my life to where it built this mental toughness for me. So everything I did was great. But social media stuff to where I push hard onto it. And just literally, like subconsciously, people knew I did real estate, even if I haven't talked to them in 10 years. Yeah, that's all I wanted to do.
See, I love like media and everything, just because it shows the inside of your life. Because just like obviously you can't have like a real estate conversation with absolutely everyone. Right. But to me, it allows you to show like exactly what you are, what you're about, and all that.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of powerful.
It's crazy, man. I'll run into people from high school or middle school that I haven't seen in 10, 15 years. And then they're like, how's the real estate market? I'm like, dude, I haven't talked to you in this long. Yeah. But it's so cool that you get to see my life and what I'm doing. So then when they are ready to buy a house or for a mortgage or wanting to stay in Snowshoe, they know to call me because they've seen my stuff over and over.
Yeah. I think the one thing, like of all your business, I think I like the mortgage company the best because
thanks, dude.
I've used, like, for instance, like even my lenders, like my wife was like really good friends like with the lender I used at the beginning. And I've never met her for like the longest time because everything is like so virtual. Yeah, everything like that. So you can do it you can be in Virginia and you can market to everyone.
Exactly.
You utilize the web, and I love that.
Exactly. It can be set completely remote, and so that's why I've got people in Texas, North Carolina, South Carolina, and it's wild because I don't even have to see them. Everything is just done through Facebook, Gmail. And we have this software to where everything's run out of, and we go on Zoom and phone calls. But like, dude, I don't ever see these people.
So how was that? I mean, shooting like a different lender in a whole nother state. Did they start in Virginia and move there?
Or? No, dude. I found these people like in Texas. Like they're in Texas and working for us, and it's because we're set up to be completely remote. But even on the real estate side, we're set to be that way too. I learned it's like the only way to scale is I don't even have to focus on our backyard here. I could focus on other areas while having a system that can run anywhere. And so like even on the real estate side, we're in 7 MLSs, including Lynchburg, Roanoke, and Charlottesville, Outer Banks, Albemarle, Richmond, and Virginia Beach. But like my system here works there as well. Yeah. So it's a way of scaling by not just like hustling for business here, I can hustle for business anywhere. And that's what I love is like, why hold back from an opportunity if it can exist? And it's like, again, I don't want to regret not taking that chance. Yeah. So for me, it's like, hey, if you sell in Texas, great. I'll get the Texas license. Let's start selling there. Awesome. So I did the same thing for North